Welcome back to the channel. It's been a while, but this season I'm going to be on it. I'm going to be making a lot of content on Barcelona specifically, a lot of football stuff, and I thought I'd start off with going through my Premier League predictions and my thoughts overall on how it's going to go. So I think I'll start with the bottom of the table moving upwards. And in relegation spots, so 20th, 19th, and 18th, I've got Hull City in 20th, Ipswich in 19th, and Coventry in 18th. I know it sounds cliche, but I do think all three promoted teams will go down this season. I know it didn't happen last season, but the trend recently has been that they all go down. And I just think the gap between the Premier League and the Championship, although it has closed over the years, I still think it's a bit too much this season. I think Hull City have made some good signings. Obviously, Lucas Harrington, shout out, the Socceroos jersey just up there. And like Ipswich and Coventry too, decent signings. I just don't think that it's enough. I do think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be a whitewash where the teams won't go through with a fight. But I do just think that the other Premier League established teams will stay. So moving on to, I think, will be in 17th place. I've got Sunderland. I think it's hard because Sunderland obviously had a great season last year. They overachieved massively. No one thought they'd be in the position they were in. But I just think now, with their squad and the sort of depth that they have, I just don't think they'll be able to compete in the Premier League as well because of Europe. So obviously, as I said, they're going to be in European competition. It's going to be really hard for them to maintain the consistency in the Premier League. And I don't think they'll get relegated, as I do think they are a good team generally, but I don't think they'll be able to handle managing the different competitions. And moving on to 16th, I've got Newcastle. This is the big shock, but guys, they have just completely lost their squad. Manager's gone. A lot of their key players are gone. I think some more will even go, like if Lewis Hall leaves as well, which I think might happen. It's just not looking good for Newcastle at the moment. And yeah, I think it's pretty bleak, to be honest. I would like to think they would still be decent with the amount of money they have in the club. But as everyone knows, the PSR has been a massive issue for them. They haven't been able to get the targets that they want. And I do think this will be a rough season for them. And moving on to 15th place, I've got Leeds. This is interesting because they made some good signings. They've got Trafford from City, which is a massive signing. And yeah, I just think they'll do all right. I don't think they'll be in the contention for relegation. I think they'll be comfortably sitting in 15th. And I think everyone from here onwards above will be comfortably safe. They just won't be pushing for, those European spots. On to 14th, I've got Fulham. Nothing really too big for them. I just think it's, just a decent season. And let's be real, no one really cares about this middle table. So I'll try and get through this sort of middle of the table now and get up to the top of the table as quick as I can. 13th place, I've got Crystal Palace. I think losing Glasner and losing a few more of their key players, I think they'll struggle, and I just don't think they're going to be as good as they have been in the last few seasons. And moving on to 12th place, I've actually got Bournemouth. This is interesting because they were really good last year. They were the most informed team ending the season. I think they went 19 games undefeated by the end of it. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they pan out. And I think similar to Sunderland, I think the reason that they will potentially move down the ladder is because of them trying to manage Europe. It's going to be really tough for them. They have a good squad, but it's just don't have the depth that they need to compete on all the fronts. And I think obviously losing, Iraola is just a massive, massive factor. He was the reason, in my opinion, that they were doing as good as they were. I just think losing him, having to change their system, although the new manager might be good, I just think that it won't be good enough to keep them in the same heights that they were at before. Moving on to 11th, I've got Everton. I think they've been, slowly building up to becoming a more stable team again. Nothing amazing. I do think that purely because of, Crystal Palace losing the manager, Bournemouth losing the manager, and Bournemouth dealing with, European competitions, I think that Everton will be a bit more stable in that sort of sense. So that's why I got them 11th. Right in the middle of the table at 10th, I've got Brentford. This is weird because last year I honestly had Brentford to go down, losing Thomas Frank and a lot of their key players, but they did pretty well, and I do think next season they'll do well again. I think they'll just be comfortably, mid-table. And moving on to number 9, this is a pretty big call here. I've got Nottingham Forest in 9th place. A lot of people are saying they're going to be near the bottom, they might get relegated because they did struggle last season. But I do think that having Oliver Glasner is a massive, massive thing for Forest. I know it's risky because, with Mariakis, the owner, I think that's how you say his name, Glasner could get sacked straight away, and we wouldn't be surprised if that actually happens. But I do think that he'll steady the ship, and I do think they'll have a good season and come in 9th place. On to 8. Now here onwards is sort of where all the teams kind of blend in, and I think it could finish either way with any team sort of finishing any of these positions. But in 8th, I've got Brighton. There's not really much to say. Brighton are just one of those consistent Premier League teams that I think always sit just in and around European spots. And I think they'll come 8th this season. I just think the other teams above them just have that little bit more firepower to make that difference. So on to 7th place, a massive jump, and I could be completely wrong here, but I've got Tottenham Hotspur in 7th place. This is the big call because obviously the last 2 years they've come almost in the relegation positions. But I do think that with De Zerbi there, they will steady the ship. Picked up Tonali, which I think is a massive signing. And I just think they're going to be a lot more stable this season now, having De Zerbi there. It's clear that the players have bought into his identity, and I do think that they'll do a lot better with him because of that. Moving on to 6th place. I tossed up between this, and this is going to sound a bit crazy too, but I've got Aston Villa. I do think they'll finish top 6 and, get that European spot, Europa League. And it was hard because I do think if you look at all the teams in the top, 6 teams, a lot of them are all going through some sort of transition period, except for Arsenal and Man United, really. Chelsea, new manager. Liverpool, new manager. Man City, new manager. Tottenham, De Zerbi's only just come in. You look at Arsenal, obviously Arteta's been there for a while, and look at Man United, Carrick's been settled in pretty well. So I do think that Aston Villa, one of those other teams that are pretty settled with, Unai Emery being there. But I just have a feeling that, with the limitations they have because of the financial issues, they might struggle again. They have lost Morgan Rogers, which was huge for them last season. I do think they'll come top 6, but I do think they'll just come in 6th place. I could be wrong. They could end up, coming in 3rd because of the fact that they're more stable than some of the other clubs, but I do think they just don't have that star power. Ollie Watkins is aging, They have a few good signings. Like Manzambi's a pretty big signing. He could be really good for them this season, but yeah, I think 6th place is still a good finish for Aston Villa. I've seen a lot of their fans themselves saying that they're kind of expecting to be in that 6th and 7th place, purely because of how the sort of squad's been panned out. Now, into 5th place, top 5, which in my opinion will probably end up getting Champions League spots because of the coefficient. I think this is a huge, huge call. Manchester City will come in 5th spot. Now, this is crazy because a lot of people are going to have them coming 2nd or 3rd, potentially even winning. But I just think when you lose someone as big as Pep Guardiola, it's going to be so hard to go back the next season and do really well. Enzo Maresca's a good manager. He proved it at Chelsea. But I just think that losing Pep is just massive. Like, everyone's seen what happened when, Man United lost Fergie. Obviously, United since then just haven't been the same. This is a bit different because with Fergie, he sort of left a dying squad, whereas with Man City, there's still decent players there. Obviously, there's Haaland, you can't write him off. But I do think that, especially losing Rodri as well, which is the other main thing, I think losing Rodri and Pep, Bernardo Silva, a lot of these massive players that were a big part of the core for Man City that has done so well over the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years with those players that I specifically said, I just think they're going to struggle. I do think eventually they'll come good under Enzo Maresca, but I just think that, this is a real transition season for them. I think they're going to be allowed to finish in this spot. I don't think they're going to have high expectations. I think they're just going to work on setting the foundations and the groundwork to become a title challenging season the season after. Hopefully we see some more from Foden. There's also some big signings in midfield too, like Elliot Anderson and Buati potentially. Like, it's going to take some time for them to get used to each other and to really implement the system. So yeah, I just think they're not going to do as good. I still think they'll come top 5 purely because at the end of the day, it's Man City. They've spent that much money. They got Erling Haaland up front, who in my opinion is one of the best strikers in the world. They're going to come top 5. They might even honestly come 2nd. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong here, but I just think it's going to take a bit more time for them to really, really find their feet. Speaking of finding their feet, in 4th place, I've got Liverpool. This is a weird one as well because obviously Iraola's coming in, Slot's gone. And I actually think this is a good thing for Liverpool. I think Slot was holding back a lot of the players. I know they struggled a lot last season, but I think this Liverpool squad are actually quite good. They've got really good players. They've got Isak. It's unfortunate about Ekatike, but yeah, the midfield's good. And I just think Iraola is just a weapon, to be honest. Like, we know the squad's good, right? That's what I'm trying to say. The squad's good because they won the Premier League 2 seasons ago, and all those players there played well. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai had an amazing season last year. There's a lot of good players in this squad. They just weren't used right by Slot last season, but I think having Iraola is massive. I do have them in 4th place because same thing with Man City. I think it will take them some time to get used to changing the system and implementing what Iraola wants. But I think he's the top manager, man. I honestly think that maybe next season after, Liverpool could go on to contend for the title. They could even shock everyone now and go for it this season too. But I just think that with Iraola and how good he is implementing his system, I think he can get the best out of a lot of the Liverpool players. You look at their, signing as well of Araujo, who, as a Barcelona fan, I do not rate Araujo at all. He's been terrible in the last few seasons, but I still think that for a team like Liverpool in the Premier League, he could do okay. He could be a big signing for them. They've still got Virgil, who is aging, but still one of the best in the world. And they've got some other depth. They've got Leone, who's coming back from the injury. Jacquet, another young centre-back who has injury problems, but I think he'll be good. I don't know. I just think this Liverpool team will be fine. They'll take some time to transition into it. But I think they'll be one of those teams that on their day, they'll look very, very good and they'll be ready to go next season. So I've got them in 4th place. Now, on to 3rd place. Another team that I think are in transition to, I've got Chelsea with Xabi Alonso. Now, you might be thinking, what's the double standard here with, Liverpool, City and Chelsea all having new managers and new systems? Why is Chelsea above them when Chelsea have proven last season that they're a lot worse than Man City and Liverpool? For me, I agree with all those sentiments, but I think the main reason I've got Chelsea above Liverpool and Man City for this season is because at the end of the day, Chelsea are going to be playing 1 game a week. There's no Europe to worry about, and I just think that's going to allow Xabi Alonso to really sit down and focus on the Premier League. Whereas teams like Liverpool and Man City, I think that although they'll be obviously focused on the Premier League, I think that because they'll be going through a transition period, they're going to put a lot of emphasis on trying to win some cup competitions. The Champions League potentially, the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup. I think they're going to be focusing on that to hold the fans over while they transition and build a strong team to contend for the title. Whereas I think Chelsea under Xabi Alonso, a lot of young talent, Alonso's coming in, signing some experienced players too to add that experience which Chelsea haven't had for a long time. I think Alonso is a world-class manager and I think he will get it right straight away and he will really try to steady Chelsea on and they'll have full focus on the Premier League. So that's why I got them coming in 3rd. Now, 2nd place, this is a big one too, but I've got Man United. This could go completely wrong because a lot of people will be saying that, they're, playing Europe now. Last season they were good because they only had 1 game a week, similar to Chelsea right now. But I think this Man United team are actually really good, man. I think they made some big signings. Tielemans, I think, is a massive, massive signing for them to replace Casemiro. I know it's not the same play style, but I think that having someone with the control of Tielemans is really important. And having someone, as Andre Santos with legs, I think that could actually work pretty well in midfield. And it kind of goes down to the whole thing I was talking about earlier about I think that Man United are one of the most settled teams in the league. Carrick is one of the, I think if you look at the table over January to the end of the season, I think Man United actually come first on that table. And I think that Carrick has done a good job to steady Man United, and I think he'll go on this season and do the same thing. I don't think they'll win. I think there'll be a bit of a gap between them and 1st place, but I do think that out of all the teams below them, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man City, who are all going through transition periods, I think Man United will be ready to go to come 2nd place as they'll be more stable. That's all it really is. I think there's still a few more gaps they need to address, such as centre-backs and full-backs, depending on if Dorgu stays fit at left-back. I don't know if he will or not, because Luke Shaw, I think, is going to be past it, unless he moves to a centre-back position, but who knows. I think there are a few signings they still need to make, but I do think that overall they're just a more stable team. All the players coming into it this season know what to expect. They played that for the whole last 6 months sort of thing, and they're just going to know what to do. And I think they'll end up coming 2nd. And obviously in 1st place, who I think will win the Premier League next season is Arsenal. As much as I hate to say it, I despise Arsenal. I just completely am against the football they play and everything about them really, to be honest. But at the end of the day, they're the best team in the Premier League, and I do think that they will win the Premier League again quite comfortably. If they don't win the Premier League, I think it's a disgrace. They have by far the best squad in the league. They're the best team in the league. There's just no debate. All their main competitors are going through transition periods and a lot of changes. They are the main stable team, and I think at the end of the day, it is their title to win. Especially with Rodri leaving Man City and all the changes there, I just don't think any other team will contend and fight with them. I don't think they'll win by 20 points, for example, but I do think it'll be comfortable and they'll win the league at the end of the season with a few games to spare. But yeah, I just think they're the best team. I don't really know what else to say. It's just Arsenal. They know how to get the job done. The question marks will be how big of an impact the Saliba injury will be. He might be out for a while, and that could be a big thing because I think Saliba is one of the most important players. But at the end of the day, they've still got Mosquera, Hincapié, and they've even potentially linked with Konza as well, which could be a big signing. So I think they'll be fine. Rice has been tied, sort of the end of the season, you could see in the World Cup. But now they got in, a player like Bruno Guimaraes to give him a bit of rest every now and then, also play alongside him when they're both fit. I think they'll be fine. They're honestly a really good team, as much as I hate to say it. They deserve the respect to be called the champions and to be the champions elect, essentially. I think they'll end up doing it. And moving on now from the actual ladder onto just some individual predictions, I'm going to go through what I think with those. Let's start with Golden Boot. So for me, I think the Golden Boot is pretty obvious. It's going to be Erling Haaland. I just don't think there's anyone else in the league who can possibly contend. Now that Salah's gone, I don't really think there's any other superstars really in the Premier League, which I think is also a thing to talk about. I think this is probably the worst Premier League season in a long time in terms of the quality. You look at the overall state of the league. First of all, last season they kind of got embarrassed in Europe overall. We all saw how that kind of panned out. Other than Arsenal, there was that sort of week where every English team lost by a big margin, which was just pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, I think the Premier League's a bit washed at the moment. If you really think about it, the only real superstars are Erling Haaland and Bruno Fernandes, potentially. Like, that's basically it. I don't really think there's any other big stars. You could say Saka, Rice, but like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just Arsenal biased in the terms that I hate Arsenal, but I don't know. But yeah, I think Erling Haaland will get the Golden Boot. You could see maybe like a big jump from someone like Seshko, I think, for Man United. He could have a big season, maybe score like 20 goals. Gyökeres, as much as I think he's a terrible footballer, he knows how to score, and Arsenal are a good team, so he might end up maybe getting 15, 20 goals again. But yeah, I think Erling Haaland's the clear favourite for that. For play of the season, it's just really hard because I guess it just depends, right? If there's no standout like last season with Bruno Fernandes, breaking the assist record, it would have gone to someone like Declan Rice. And I actually am going to probably say Declan Rice for next season. I think he's Arsenal's most important and best player. And I do think if he gets his sort of fitness back and has a bit of a rest and can actually afford to be at full fitness for the whole season again, I think he'll most likely get play of the season. That's just my opinion. If not, you could see a massive season from Erling Haaland, who could go on to score like 35 goals again, and he'll probably get it. But I think Declan Rice is most likely who I'll go for. For young player of the season, I mean, it could be anyone, right? A lot of the time, it's just someone that we haven't really heard of who kind of breaks through. I'm not really too sure, to be honest. It's weird because a lot of the young players, like, they've been around for a while. I don't know. I'm going to, just put a weird shout out. I'm going to say Estevao for Chelsea. I've got Chelsea coming in third. I think they'll have a good season. And I think this could be a breakthrough season for Estevao. He's still pretty young. Let's see how he goes. I'm going to say that for that. And yeah, that's basically it, guys, for my Premier League predictions. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the video, if you want me to do some more predictions for the Premier League or for other leagues and stuff. Maybe Champions League predictions will come soon. But yeah, just to do a little reminder, my name's Aiden. I'm a big Barcelona fan, a massive football fan as well. I'll be keeping up with the Premier League every week. I'm going to try and make a weekly Premier League review video. But my main focus will be Barcelona. I'm a big Barcelona fan, as I said, and I'll be trying to review every single game for Barcelona, giving a lot of content review for Barcelona in general as well. And also, if you really enjoy my content and want to stay in tune to me as well, just check out my Instagram and TikTok. I post a lot of short content, short form videos there as well. For the World Cup, actually, just to let you guys know if you haven't seen me before, I actually watched every single World Cup game, all 104, like 90 minutes for every single game, and I actually went through and reviewed all 104 games as well. So that's on my TikTok and Instagram if you guys want to check it out. I did a lot of content. It was like 100 posts or more throughout the World Cup, so I was fully up to date with it. And I'm keen to do the same thing for the next season. I love making content, guys. At the end of the day, I love yapping about football. Football is my favorite thing in the entire world. So yeah, let me know if you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, share around, and yeah, see you guys soon. Thank you.